Dang, I didn't mean to stop that. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever y'all want to, wherever you are, you might be watching. Real quick, we are going to talk about a few things today, but before we get started, just want to give a shout out to the Detroit Lions. Let's show some love for Detroit Lions. You know, they're my favorite sports team right now, actually, the Detroit Lions. So show them some love. Um, they've been going crazy. So I'm a number one Lions fan. I just don't believe they're gonna win every week. But hey, I'm a number one Lions fan. Um, I'm the best out there to be a fan. Okay. So shout out to Detroit Lions. Two, what else I was gonna address before I jump on? When you get on, make sure you share the video, make sure you're out there sharing things like that. So that's two. Hopefully this time works for people right now. I know people will be busy, so hopefully it works. But we're gonna jump on with a few people in a moment once they join. My guy, Peter Webb, he was a little nervous to join. Bless his heart. He had a lot of comments to say, but he was pretty nervous on joining. So I'm intrigued to get his input, but he has not joined yet. Share the live, invite your friends, invite your people to show up. Comment, make sure you can hear me, all that good stuff. So we kind of work out some of the kinks and stuff like that. What else? So today we're gonna talk about Brittney Griner or Grier. I think it's Griner. I think I spelled it wrong. But today we're gonna talk about Brittney Griner and just basically the most important piece about that. How you know, there go my guy Jason joining. We're just gonna talk about the why Brittney Griner. I definitely think I spelled it wrong. Hold on one second. Make sure. Yeah, I definitely spelled it wrong on my let me see, can I edit that real quick? Because that's gonna bother me. All right. No, you cannot edit. But anyways, we're gonna talk about Brittney Griner, how she was just released in a prisoner swap, which was kind of surreal. Like watching it, it was kind of crazy. I can't even lie. I was like, dang, yo, that was kind of like off a movie or something. I don't know if anybody have saw the video, but it was a crazy, like off the movie type prisoner swap. So we're gonna talk about it. You got people that believe that Brittney Griner should not have been brought home. People believe that she committed a crime, that she should do her time. And then you have individuals who believe, like, they're kind of happy that she's home, and they kind of wish that it wasn't for the guy, the merchant of death. So I had to do a little research. This topic I did do a little research on because I was very intrigued to see why the United States would make that trade and not make the trade for the U.S. Marine that's over there, Paul Wellman, I believe his name is. So again, thank you for joining. Make sure that you share our live. Make sure you show us some love. We don't have that many people here right now, but we just want you to continue to share so people will join as we talk about this most important topic. And I'll bring on my guy, Jason Sellers. Let him give his opinion about it. We'll ask some questions and we'll kind of go from there. Some people ask me some questions, and I'm going to address the questions. If Peter is too scared to join, I'm going to make sure that I address some of his issues, some of his questions he had, because he wanted to ask me a few questions about why Brittney, why did I believe that Brittney Griner should be free off of my, and I guess he's like, because I'm so against marijuana, how could I ever believe that somebody should be free for it? So we'll address that as well, okay? But bringing on Jason Sellers, my guy. What's going on, man? What's going
What's
on?
up, man?
It's good to see you, brother. It's
Yeah,
good
it's
to
been
see
a long time, man. It's been a long
you.
time.
It has, though. So, what are you up to these days? So, this is Jason. I went to college with Jason. So, what are you up to these days? You want to just
Man,
tell the people?
I'm working, man. I got a whole squad of kids, a whole wife. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm just working. Enjoying the family life, just growing, building. Trying to
Okay.
raise these kids right. That's what I'm doing now.
Man. Sound like they being raised in the Republican household over there, brother. Let me, Donald Trump household over there.
You
Tell me that.
wild, bro.
So, tell me, like, well, Brittany Griner was released.
Yeah.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people feel like I saw that you put something and you were like, good, she's released. So it seemed
Yeah.
like you agree with her being released.
Yeah. I think 8 years for weed possession is crazy. I think anybody would
Yeah.
agree about that. Like, that's anywhere in the world. Like, that's just too much time. You know what I mean? Unless you're trafficking or something like that. I just thought it was a bad trade, and so maybe you'll teach me something about it because I haven't really done any deep diving on why they
Yeah.
they would allow this trade to go through. But it doesn't seem like a good trade, at least just from the outset. I feel like we could have got
Yeah.
some
Yeah. That's
more.
what a lot of people, a lot of people been saying that they don't feel like it was a fair trade. They got the Merchant of Death. And then, that name does not live up to what it is, honestly.
Okay.
I looked that up as well. Yeah, that name is not. I was surprised, like, why do they call him that? But I was just kind of looking at it. But let me see. Yeah, Anthony also says that wasn't a fair trade. He don't believe it was a fair trade. Anybody,
No.
if you don't feel like it was a fair trade, let us know. And I mean, I would love to have people on here that talk about it like this against it. So you believe. So my question for you is: would you have left her over there? Say if you're in President Biden, you're like, the trade's not fair. She can't come home right now, or would you have made the trade? That's the question.
It's not that I would have left it over there. I would have. I mean, geopolitics, man. I think they could have figured out another way to put pressure onto Russia to release her. I mean, clearly Russia's playing a political football type of game. With they're essentially holding hostages for these menial crimes. And I mean, if you do a Google search, which I did, there are other people from other countries that have been held in Russia. There's another person that's over there for 15 years, serving 15 years for possession, something like that. So they're doing this and they're getting, political prisoners sent back to Russia. They're doing trades. So clearly that's what they're doing. But we've got to figure out ways to put pressure back on to Russia or whoever's using this kind of tactic, because it's really slimy, but
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
you can't get something like this Merchant of Death and just get back. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that it's just Brittney Griner, but it's not equivalent, so that's just bad policy, so
you,
thanks,
you
Papa
know,
Joe. Like,
I,
it's no good.
so you don't think it's good. So I think it's a few things, right? So one, yeah, so like the Merchant of Death, the dude was basically a arms dealer. So basically, his job was to go out and sell guns. So how he got the
Mhm.
Merchant of Death, I don't know, but I guess he was selling guns to terrible people or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But his job was to go out and sell guns. It wasn't
Yeah.
to. I didn't read anything. This is my very little research I've done. I didn't read anything about him killing people, things like that. I guess his guns that he was selling was used to kill people. And so I think that's the first thing. Like, it's not like now him being released is not a security threat to the United States of America. That's what that's my second understanding. Like, that was
Okay.
like basically he's been in jail for 15 years. He doesn't have a lot of his connects anymore. He would have to rebuild those connects. Would it be easy? I don't know. Would it not be?
I
But
mean,
yeah. And so that was one of the biggest things. And Russia, as you stated, clearly they're playing some high stakes, crazy game with the United
yeah.
States of America, disrespectful game. And so the question the United States have to decide, like, well, how far do we want to go? Do we want to go over there and just bomb, and go into a nuclear war? They can't do that. So they got to have some type of conversation with these people. And
Mm.
and so I think that what the United States decided was that, well, we'll get somebody back. And all of everything I've read from the White House, from listening to the press secretary talk, the guy, the U.S. Marine, Paul Wellman, I believe, who
Mm-hmm.
was in for you Trump lovers, we got a lot of Trump lovers out there. He was in custody 2 years into Trump presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and Trump never mentioned his name, they said. He never
Okay.
once mentioned his name, never once did anything to get him out. So what they said was that basically Russia is not dealing with him as typical. He's not the typical person to them. They believed he was a spy, and
Mm.
it's going to take a lot more for the
Okay.
United States to get. It's going to take a lot more for the United States to get him and that's why they did the trade. So, that's my understanding. I would love to hear people's opinions because people are like, hey, we got Brittney Griner for the Merchant of Death. And what I'm trying to explain to people is that it was no other option. The guy was not on the table at the time. The U.S. Marine was not on the table. So how do you even negotiate with that? Nothing was on the table. So I don't
that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's wild.
I don't really have anything to say about that.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you a question though. Now this might be slightly going off tangential, but we were in the chat with posting on Peter's thing the other day.
Yeah.
And so you were talking to the guy Roger in there. So I want to ask you face to face about people who have this, because Roger had this opinion about Brittney that was basically like, she did the crime, she should do the time.
Yeah.
Type thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's a white guy, but I want to know why you thought that was racially motivated, or where that comes into it.
Yeah.
Like
and I don't know if I thought it was racially motivated. I just know that nobody understands our stories like we understand our stories. And I'm telling you, like, I am not one. If you watch me at all on social media, I'm not one to play the race card. I'm not one to be like, oh, that's not me. But even myself, like when I first heard about Brittney Griner, I'm like, oh, what a why she got her silly stuff over there with drugs. Right. First off, why would she be over there with that? Second, why would she even be in Russia? Bless her heart. I wouldn't be caught dead in Russia right now. You feel me? So I was just like, she's silly doing that. Then she over here taking a knee. So, I think she had a lot of things why people were against her on this whole situation. But if we're looking at it fairly, like, she's being wrongly imprisoned. She is a United States. She's an American. And so, of course, we should be concerned about her well-being. Of course, we should be concerned about her being falsely imprisoned. Because, like, how are you gonna tell me? I bet you. This is what somebody else was telling me, and I think it's true, that she's probably carried those cartridges over there several times, and they were trying to find leverage against the United States. That's what I believe was happening. I don't think it's no big conspiracy. I believe it was a big conspiracy to get her, but there's no big thing. Russia is foul. They're terrible. They're a terrible country, and they're doing stuff to hold us. So when I see somebody say like, "Oh, she did the crime, she got to do the time," that's what they have told us throughout our lives, throughout the and this is something I'm not even against, the 3 strikes law and stuff like that. Do the crime, you got to do the time. But look at what our people go through. So I work with kids all the time, and I see like all the struggles they have. Mm-hmm. People wonder like, man, why do they steal, or why do they go robbing? Why do they do this? And I'm like, you don't understand what they go through. And I get it. Like, yeah, everybody can't break the law to make ends meet. But I'm like, you got to understand their whole story. You got to understand their situations, and you'll better understand the way their punishment should be handed out. I do not believe all people. That's what I'm saying. So that's
a deep one, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm with you up until the point. Okay, let me ask you another question. I won't make statements. Understanding someone's struggle does what for correcting the behavior? Who's responsible for correcting the behavior?
The behavior of what?
Any negative behavior that we see, especially in our community. Who's responsible for correcting the behavior? Where's the onus on? Like, for example, I'll go a little bit further. Is Brittney Griner who's responsible? Like, there's nobody who can circumvent that. Now, are the laws harsh? We can even say unfair.
Absolutely.
But, we have to say who's responsible. Like, she chose to bring the weed on the plane, whatever. Like, she's got to own that piece of it. So,
but what is it to own? That's my thing. She had weed, but Russia's going to give her a 10-year sentence for weed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we just look at it from what it is. And that's my biggest thing is like, look at it from what it was. Russia wanted leverage to get somebody out. They knew all they had right now was Paul.
She gave them the leverage, though. That I think she gave them
I
what
don't know.
they
I think they would
needed.
have found something else. I think they would have found something else, honestly.
And I think you got a point there. I mean, there's precedent
Now, did
for.
you
I mean,
go over to Russia?
yeah, I did. I was over there. Yeah.
I was talking to my cousin about that. Like, so did you go
Yeah.
over to the aliens that time?
Yeah, I was over there with the aliens.
Now imagine
conducting
somebody
arrest
would have had a
prayer.
lighter in their bag, and they say, "Oh,
Mhm.
you know, you can't have lighters on the plane. You're trying to," and then they sentence like 2 or 3 people from the choir to 10 years because it's illegal to have a lighter on the plane.
Yeah, that I was just telling this to Danae. I was like, I would want my country to come for me. If I got hemmed up for some crazy stuff like that, like Jason's in jail for the next 12 years, like I want my country to come for me, right? But if I know beforehand, don't bring no lighters on, bro, you think I'm bringing a Bic? I'm not. There's not going to be a Bic. There's not going to be a match. I'm not playing with it. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And she's been playing She's been playing basketball over there for a long time.
Yeah, and they say she played because she ain't making no money over here in the United States of America, a great country.
Well,
so your experience, what was your experience in Russia? Tell me that. What
bro,
was your
the country? And I've traveled a couple places. The country is extremely beautiful, and the people are very warm. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, arrogance. You know what I mean? I was expecting coldness. It's not like that. So everything that they've been showing us, in the movies for years and stuff like that, it's really not like that. The people are very welcoming. So it's pretty cool.
So at not one point there did you feel like you could have been arrested? Did you feel like your time? Because my thinking is like, or in that my next question to you is like, would you take that trip today? Knowing what you know, like
I don't think I would take it today.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take it today. Just it's the tensions with the Ukraine thing. It's the geopolitics. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go to China either. You know what I mean? Like there's some. You know what I mean? Like there's some countries I wouldn't go to Canada. You know what I mean? Like they're crazy. They're acting crazy over there in Canada. You know what I mean? There's just places that I wouldn't go. Like 10 years ago, yeah, of course.
And
but
so
right now, heck no.
Anthony asked the question. He says, "Why couldn't they kick her out and tell her never come back? Countries do that all the time." And so I promise you, they don't have to never worry about her asking her to come back. I'm sure she would not be stepping back over in Russia. And I think like Anthony, I think one of the biggest things that you have to realize, and this is what I was trying to tell people, Russia wanted leverage. So since they wanted leverage, the whole goal was to get somebody that had that much media attention and then try to get their guy, Merchant of Death, Victor Bout, which I'm like, I just don't understand. I don't understand the fascination with him. But I was looking at an interview he did. He said he told her good luck or something, and that he had a picture of Putin in his cell, and he loves his country, Russia, all this type of weird stuff. I was like, oh, okay. But I think the biggest thing is like my issue is that, and what I try to explain to people is that United States of America has to go out and get his people. And so at that time, Russia said the negotiation was only with and concerning Brittney Griner. So they had to make a decision. Of course, they want to bring our guy Paul back, but they have to make a decision. Hey, they're looking at his case differently. Second, Peter, who's afraid to get on to talk to me, he asked the question. Let me see, and I don't know if I can show the question, but I'll definitely read it out. I think on my page. Hold on one second. I'm gonna read it out to y'all real quick because he asked a question that inquiring minds want to know, because anybody know me, they know that I hate marijuana. I think it destroys our young people, and my kid do something, like one of my kids do something crazy, I'm like it must be weed. Brittney must have been a little high when she was getting on that plane that day, thinking she'd go around bring that weed.
Yeah, she was zooted, bro.
Bless her. I thought they had planned. How we know they ain't playing this? I would love to hear her story about that situation.
They ain't plant that weed on her, bro.
He said, "You think this is what Peter Webb said? Peter, he's listening, but silly comment. He says, you think Russian drug laws are unjust concerning marijuana, but you vehemently compare marijuana to crack every 3 weeks. He says, "You sound silly, bro. It is unjust because she's black or
Mm.
unjust because marijuana isn't evil. Pick a side. We're on both sides of the topic right now." That's what Peter Webb. But you see, Peter has been. What we have to realize is that brother has been in the military, and I've seen some people in the military that get real brainwashed in that military. That's what
I've
I've
seen some
learned. Now
people
that's just from my
brainwashed
experience.
outside the military. I've seen some people brainwashed
Yeah,
by the
I've never
Democratic
seen it
Party. I've
like
seen
the
some people
military.
brainwashed by church. I've seen people brainwashed by the
Yeah,
Republican Party. I've seen people brainwashed. Period. So, but I want to hear you respond to that because
yeah.
that's
I think it's a
interesting.
great.
That's an
I mean,
interesting.
I think it's a dumb question, but I think it's like I guess inquiring minds want to know. But I think one of the most important things is like first off, yes, I think marijuana destroys our community. I think that once the studies are done, once information is released, we will see how much damage is done to our community, how much damage it does
Mm,
to have these young people think critically. They can't think. They're lazy. Their emotions are all out of
yeah.
whack. It's all because of the marijuana. I've
Mm,
seen it. I've witnessed it. I've seen it personal. But so of course I hate marijuana. I don't even think it should be legal in the United States of America. But me
mm,
thinking that marijuana shouldn't be legal in the United States of America, me thinking that young people should not be smoking marijuana, young kids should not be smoking marijuana, has nothing to do with somebody being taken basically hostage in Russia for having a vape pen. I don't think people should be giving 10 years for marijuana. And of course, if you look through it and you see the whole entire situation, they used her as leverage. So of course I'm against that. Of course, like I want her to be able to come home to in the United States. Of course that. So I don't see the one as being equal to the other. I don't see it as being the same. I hate weed. I think weed is terrible. I think that we need to stop telling our kids that it's okay. We need to stop saying it's a plant because it's destroying people's lives every day. Look at Brittney Grinder.
this is
Destroy
really interesting.
Russia. Bless her heart. Huh?
That's an interesting take, bro, because
Yeah.
it's almost okay. If you hate weed so much, wouldn't you want? I mean, what's the deterrent for that? Like jail is definitely a deterrent. Like you almost sound a little Republican yourself, my brother. Just a little bit on that
Never.
point. So I mean, you're not, you're not blue no matter who, But it's interesting because I mean, I think the people that are saying like, "Yo, she should have done her time," no matter what, they have a point there. And what I was saying earlier is that, like, one, especially talking to our community, we must stop giving people reasons. We got to stop playing into the trap. If it was a trap to set up somebody from America, she fell right into it because she couldn't control her desires, her cravings, or whatever. And like, what happened to Brittney Griner in Russia is a microcosm of what happens to Black folks in pretty much every inner city across America. And it's on us. And it's on us. Nobody can blame anybody else for Brittney. No, who else is responsible for Brittney carrying weed on the plane? Who else is responsible for us killing each other? Who else is responsible
Let me
for
say
X?
this.
Just fill it in.
Well, let me say this. I think that so a few things I want to respond to. One, let me first respond to Anthony. He says, I think overindulging destroys you. And I agree that overindulging, that type of
I
stuff
agree.
definitely destroys you. And most people that I've seen who does it, they overindulge. So I just say we just cut it all out and we'll be great. So that's one. Two, I get this idea like, what people don't understand is like, I don't think we're falling into the trap. I think we're born into the trap. So it's like, how do you even get out of the trap? Because that's the issue. It's not like Black people, oh, you're falling into the trap. No, like I go home, these kids sometimes, they go home to broken homes, parents terrible, no food, no electricity. So it's like, hey, that's the trap. Brittney Grier is same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the United States of America. She's making no money in that WNBA because nobody wants to watch that trash. And so she has to go to Russia and make extra money. So of course she has really, I mean, she's already was in a trap. She had to go over there, and play in that terrible country. And so I see the issue with Brittney Griner. I see the issue. So I think that I don't think she walked into or she was already in a trap having to be over in Russia. And so of course we should go over there and get her.
Man, that's
Yeah.
a really,
She
was already in a trap.
Yeah, it was a trap. Why would
That's a
she
hot
have to
take.
go over there? And she went over there to make money. Nobody wants to go over to cold Russia and play basketball.
Well, no one's watching the WNBA. I mean,
yes.
I couldn't rattle off to you 5 WNBA players. I couldn't do it. Can you do it?
I couldn't tell you nobody but Brittney
Yeah.
Griner.
So no one's watching her. So no one's watching the WNBA. Okay, fine. So you got to get some other work. So she's doing that. Okay, so she's doing what she has to do, just like the rest of us, to get by. Big deal. Fine. You have to work for a living. Shocker. Okay, fine. At least you get to do it, putting a ball in the hoop. That's dope. That's awesome. Like, kudos to you. Good on you.
She's doing what
But
she loves.
I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear about, like, I was born in a trap. Like, everybody's got their own snakes and devils and stuff to deal with. Like, I don't care if you were born, the son of a millionaire. Look at 50 Cent's son. His dad was 50 Cent. And this dude is complaining on the internet about stuff. Like, everybody's got things to complain about. Like, no one cares. Like, you are hindered by this. You're not hindered by your conditions. The conditions don't mean anything. It's the state of your mind that hinders stuff. So, we got to stop recycling these same ideas. Like, I think that's killing us more than the weed, than the cocaine, than the police. It's what we think about ourselves that's destroying us.
And I think that we have to go deeper, because what I try to explain to people is that it's not just, we have to realize, like, and I'll be honest with you, man. I had your same opinion before I really deeply started working. Like, really, honestly, I want to say like last year almost. I think it kind of got me. Even though I worked with kids from the hood all the time, I was like, yo, man, you can make it out. You can make it out. But it's not true. They can't make it out. They can't. You have to realize how deep this stuff is engraved in their heads. So it's not like, they go through so much that them making it out and being a productive citizen and making good decisions, that is a miracle. And the goal is, and I think some of the work that we try to do is to try to help them make these decisions. Like, hey, man, you got to make better decisions. Or you got to be like, I have these kids, I have kids like 3.5 GPAs, great kids will get into a fight in school over something so small. It blows my mind. Like, yo, you have a 3.5, you're about to graduate, you're about to go to college. How in the world could you make this kind of mistake? It's just absolutely crazy, right? So you have to kind of explain it. Like, so when I think about like people get out, it's like it's tough because these kids go through a lot. They grew up in these environments that's rough, and it's very hard for them to kind of like, get to that point. You see what I'm saying? It's not as easy as people make.
Bro,
like,
you gotta answer something for me.
Yes, sir.
You got to answer something for me, because I want to know, what is the difference between, why is it that every other race of people can come and be in destitute conditions just like how we've been in, and they imagine a different future for themselves, and they acquiesce to that future. They acclimate to that future that they've imagined for themselves. The Italians, the Irish, the Indians, Africans, like, I can rattle off pretty much everybody except for us. And they imagine they've been in ghettos. They've been discriminated against. Like, what is it that we keep making these same mistakes over and over again? Brittney Griner's making 6 figures a year, which is in probably like the top 10% of earners, and she can't keep her stuff in check. She got to bring the mofetta on the plane. She got to bring the weed on the plane. Like, what is that about? Like, why?
And I can tell you that weed is destroying us, and people don't hear me. The weed kills, every day. People say it don't, but I'm telling people it kills. But when I think about as it relates to like other cultures, and I mean, I don't even have an answer for you right now. All I know is that in America, well, actually, I do have an answer because America has been
Okay.
willing to give opportunities to people outside of America more than people here. It's harder. Look at our schools. Look at our neighborhoods.
We still got that excuse. That's still our excuse in 2022.
It's not still. You know, I was thinking about something. I was thinking about something the other day. Like I went to. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama for a year, and I lived with my grandfather. My grandfather, by all means, is a wealthy African American person. He owns his own business. He's an electrician.
Good for him.
But I remember
Awesome.
the place we went to. The place we went to. He says weed doesn't kill; it creates procrastinators. Yeah, it kills, brother. It kills dreams. It kills your motivation. That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. So you hit the nail right on the head. It says, and then Brother Reggie says, every other race of people had a chance to change their economic status through organized crime. He's a clown. But hey,
through organized crime.
Yeah, that's what he said. But listen, on my point though, what I'm saying is that we have not been given the proper. I feel like we haven't given a proper chance in America. I'll be honest with you. I just don't. I don't see it. I feel
It's
like
hard.
there's many opportunities, and I hate to say that because I believe that people needs to stop like making excuses and move forward. But the more you think about it, you have to see that like, hey, we have not been given the same that same assistance. Look at our and people say, oh, let me get back to my story though. So that's what I was telling my story about my grandfather. So my grandfather is by any means a wealthy African American male, Birmingham, Alabama. Owns his own electrician business. He owns like 25 houses. He's doing his thing.
Oh wow.
He rented a building from a guy. I remember we used to drive in the building. He just had an office space. So he rented a building from a guy. And it was so crazy because his grandson, he was helping. My grandfather was showing me his business. This guy was showing his grandson that his business. And guess what his business was? His business was like fronting the money for like big stores being built, like a Walmart being built. His job was to front the money for that. Yeah. So imagine so just think about our two pathways. This guy has a multi-millionaire grandfather. I have a grandfather that's probably worth some hundreds of grands. How do I compete with somebody like that? How does someone, and it's going to be passed down from generation to generation, because when I talked to my grandfather, he said, man, that guy's dad was rich. So it all goes back to why, I see why people talk about we need reparations, because we will always kind of be left out because of things that happened hundreds of years ago. They built wealth.
Let me tell you something.
Wealth. And so it's not much people, African Americans, can do out there. Now, of course, like, should we be out there committing crimes? No. Should we be out there like smoking all day, doing nothing, getting free off welfare? No. But the problem is that see, Anthony says you don't compete, stay in your lane. But no, I want to do better for my community. I want to do more for my community. And I can't stay in my lane with a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, if I had millions and millions of dollars and my whole community had that, then we could do more. We could pay for stuff. Reggie said that
with that crime. Is I think there's some intersection between you and I. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I didn't realize that we had so much in common. So I'm gonna just throw that out there. So that's good.
Sir.
There's a lot between us. So that's good. But I think where I disagree with you is see, the problem with reparations is that if you drop, let's just say 200 grand on every black person in America right now, what percentage do you think is going to blow it within the first 6 months, making poor financial decisions? I say about upwards of 85% are going to blow it. And that is a mind problem. That's not a money problem. It's a mind problem. It's how you view yourself. It's your habits. It's your thoughts, speech, and actions that are the problem. It's not about reparations. It's not about legislating righteousness. We spend too much time doing that. We need to get our stuff together, and that's
But
it. It
the
happens
question you
here.
have to ask yourself. So here's the question, and this is what I learned about dealing with. This is what I've learned through dealing with kids. Go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if a kid comes to school, he's
Okay.
fighting every day, he's doing this, then why is the fight? Not like, oh, you got to kick these trust funds. Let me see. She says, like, if these kids are getting kicked out, they're fighting, they're doing stuff, you have to find deeper, like, why are they doing that? So if somebody would get $200,000 and not invest it and blow it within 6 months, why is that? That shows a deeper issue within our communities. And not necessarily our fault. We wasn't trained to do it.
Who else is trained? No one's coming to save us. Well, no one's coming to save us. If no one told you that, I'm telling you right now, no one's coming to save us. Your politician won't save you. Your pastor will not save you. You are responsible. Yes. You, whoever I'm talking to out on the internet right now, you are responsible. When you wake up in the morning and you have bad habits and you have bad thoughts, you have a bad mental image of yourself, it's going to reflect into your outcomes. We can't blame everything on racism and chattel slavery. It has its place. It has its set conditions. I understand that, but we can't lean too heavily on that. So like there's stuff that everybody's got stuff that they're doing in their life right now that they need to get better. You can't lean too heavy. Okay, the question is that I want to ask you is, what is the intersection between the conditions set onto you and your own actions? What's the intersection between that? I mean, so is that a good question? Is that a clear question?
I think that at some point, that of course you have to take responsibility for your actions at some point. But I
would say first before.
I don't know. You know, Clara Underwood, she says, you know, that's off of Frank. I don't know if Clara Huxtable Underwood. Is that? I don't know if that's a play on. Anyways, it's a yes and cool for both perspectives. Reparations for Black people, and we must also address the psychological impact of being oppressed institutionally for generations. And I think that's what we're missing. And she said exactly that. Like that's exactly what we're missing, is that we have to address that. So you had the name before House of Cards, right? Oh wait, it is a play on words. Is that what she's saying? That's something. Let me know, Claire. But anyways, that's what we miss as our people, and we're so hard on ourselves. Like, hey, we should have it figured out. When honestly, and I'm telling you, man, it's so crazy because I never thought like this until really working with these kids every day. It just So she said it is a play on words, House of Cards, and the Cosbys. So that's cool. I'm glad I wasn't terrible. I'm like, that's too much of a coincidence. But anyway, I think as she was stating, like there are ways that we need to address it, and a part of it is through what they call now equity. So our schools need more money than the suburban schools. They need to provide more funding for our schools, because guess what? In our schools, we're dealing with kids who are dealing with trauma, kids who fathers are not there, some mothers do not know how to be mothers. So we need more funding to address those issues. That's
how. Can you explain that to me? How does the money solve a psychological issue? Like, I've never been really clear on that.
Well, so say for example, right? I was getting so most of the kids, they get like $10,000 a year. So like say in the suburban schools, they probably get 13, 14,000, depending on wherever the taxes are. But for Michigan, we all get the same. But we need more money than the suburban schools. One, because what we go through on a daily basis. And how does the money impact it? So the money can provide more tutors. So this Black kid who's not going to be able to study at home because he has no Wi-Fi, he has no electricity, or his parents have to work all day, or parents don't have no intention on teaching them because they never learned, then they can stay at the school and get tutored. They can stay at the school and get mentoring. That's why you need more money, brother. Because more money,
you know what I hear?
More resources.
let me cut you off one time. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
I'm sorry.
I can tell you
Do you know what I hear? And
what you
maybe
hear, brother.
maybe my mind's maybe I'm messed up. But what I hear is, man, if we didn't have a broken home, we wouldn't need somebody else to come and do this. Because I'm with my kids every day. Danae and I, we wake up. I'm up at 4 a.m. every day. What I'm trying to say is I'm trying to cultivate good habits in my home because I'm home. I'm with my wife. We're raising our kids, and so I don't need any outside help. So that's what I hear when I hear that. I'm like, oh, if we didn't have broken homes, then we wouldn't need daddy government to step in and fix things for us. That's literally what I hear when I hear that.
And what I'm telling you is to dig deeper. Where did these broken homes come from? It just didn't pop up when they say, "Oh, all black
Hey,
kids come from broken
talk
homes."
about it, bro.
You see what I'm saying? So it
Mm-hmm.
comes from a past of discrimination, a past of being broken away from our families. That it's crazy to me because I thought about recently is how fast years go by. Like I was thinking about the guy. The guy got arrested when we were like in college, the merchant of death, wherever it is, and it's crazy like how it's already been 15 years. So you think that like 15 years is like like 15 years is a long time, and 15 years, it's not that long. And I'm starting to think the same thing about 50 years and 100 years. Like it does not change. And that's the most important piece we need to realize. Like our you know where we have been, it's not changing. Why? Because we don't have the funding. We don't have the support that we need to be able to make those changes in our community. And that's why people talk about
Man, this is a tough one.
It is. It's very tough.
It's such a tough one. It's such a tough one.
Yeah, I didn't believe it. I honestly didn't think that way. I didn't believe that way until really, I'm telling you, I started working with young people. Like, how do you change, their projections? What do you, what can you do? It is very hard.
Can I ask you something about yourself?
Yes.
I mean, when we were in college together, I mean, I saw you on campus and we talked and stuff like that, but I don't really know. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, like where you're from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up in Detroit, but technically Highland Park, which I always tell people, like, if you knew me in college, I always said Highland Park. I never said Detroit.
Yeah.
But Detroit, Highland Park, really. So I grew up in a single parent home. I grew up with older sister, younger brother, and I was like terrible in school for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got kicked out of 13 different schools. I got into like a lot of trouble. Sometimes I even got in trouble with the law. Nothing crazy though, but even when it's the law. So like that was my story. You feel me? So that's how I grew up. That's how I lived. And when I got to Oakwood, which was a wonderful place, it changed my whole perspective. And what I loved about Oakwood is being able to see Black excellence. I had never really seen that before. Seeing young people that really cared about their education, that wasn't clowning and stuff like that. So that was very important to me to see that. And I think that's what changed my whole perspective about life and where I'm headed, and what I do now to this day. So, and that's why I try to tell people, and like you said, so I'm one of the ones who, like, I made it out. I decided to make better decisions with my life, but it took a lot to do that because I was always getting in trouble. I was always foolish, and making dumb decisions. And to this day, I still feel like I have not made all of the right decisions I want to make, as well as the finances and stuff like that. But But what we need to realize is we need to stop blaming ourselves. That's what I learned. We are dealing with something that's been there for years and years and years. And that's why our people are in there. We deal with, I'm telling you, if you look at some of the trauma that these kids deal with, it's no way. One of the things I tell people, so I work for a program called Six Fire. One of the places I went was seeing a kid. Well, I remember a kid this past, about a year ago, a kid got shot playing video games with her cousins. She got shot. So the kids that were in that room with her, I remember seeing them distinctly as we got to the scene, seeing them cry, hold each other, crying. I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, they are going to be monsters when they get into high school. And why? Because they're not going to get the therapy they need. They're not going to get the support they need. So they're going to be going around with this anger, this frustration. And so how do you deal with that person? When that person goes out and always fighting, when that person is always like getting in trouble, and we say, oh, they chose it. They're making their own decision. They're doing it, but not knowing the pain and the suffering that they went through as a child and seeing what they saw. Like, how do you address that? How do you overcome that?
Let me ask you a tough question. Do we care about the trauma that Dylan Roof went through that caused him to go and do the thing? Do we care about the trauma that Hitler went through that caused him to kill 6 million Jewish people? We don't care about that. We only care about the outcome, about what you did. And I guess what I'm saying is that before we get so preoccupied with tearing down systems, which is what we've been preoccupied with doing for the past, I don't know, let's call it 1965 till now, which hasn't worked. The systems that we don't like are still in place. It makes more sense, just objectively, it's even in the Bible. I mean, if you're a Christian, if you believe in that kind of thing, it says so clear. It said, man, why don't you get the log out of your eye before you look at the little speck in someone else's eye? It's outlined so clearly. Work on yourself, get yourself right before you try to fix a system, before you try to fix anything outside of yourself. And until you get your own stuff together, address your own trauma, address your own procrastination, whatever that you're dealing with, like you don't really have.
So my question to you is,
have the
how do you address that trauma without the resources? So I can promise you, Dylan Roof had the resources. That's what I can promise you. Way more than any black kid in the city of Detroit. I don't know about Hitler and what he went through, but I know Dylan probably had the resources.
I won't disagree with you there, but what I do know is that desire is a very, very powerful motivator, and honestly, desire, if there's nothing that can stop me. If I want to, put on 50 pounds of muscle and I'm like really serious about it, like there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing that, And I would say that we need to cultivate the desire. I don't even know if our people have the desire to do that. The things that we consume, the things that we feed ourselves, we don't even have the desire to want to move in this direction. Like, just based on what we feed ourselves consistently. Can we get the desire first?
Well, the question is, like, I think, I just go back to what I've been saying the entire night. If you walk through their shoes and walk through those stories, what desire I'm going to have? My cousin brains got blown out in front of me.
You mad? You mad, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to get even again. I'm sure. I have a kid. I have no idea what that feels like.
Yeah, you have a kid. What desire I'm going to have when the person that learned, that person that hold on. So we got a few people talking. So privilege also allows some people to address their traumas more effectively than other people. Privilege. Jew, my guy Jew, one of my mentees. Soon as kids try to find help, our elder tell us, suck it up, it's part of life. We can have the desire all we want, somebody said. Let's see. Oh,
so
yeah.
How do you get a Michael Jordan? You get a Michael because how do you get a
have the desire?
How do you get a Ben Carson before he decided to run for the Republican presidency? Ben Carson before he did that was an inspiration to me. Just coming up as a kid, I wanted to be a neurologist because of Ben Carson. Came from destitute, things. I went and got a book signed from him and everything. Like we have way too many stories.
And then you get people like that. And then they're supposed to be the representative of the black community when they don't care nothing about the black community. They get away and they think they're better, or they go tell us like, why y'all not doing better? Like we don't understand. And first off, they exposed a lot of him when he got to a certain point because, like, I heard some of the stories he told was a complete lie. everybody said he was always a
Yeah, he
pleasant
kind
kid.
of
He
blew
never
it.
got in trouble.
Yeah, he blew it.
Yeah. You said, but
Yeah.
my thing is like, but going back to what she said, like, you can have the desire, but look at this. What's your response to this? We can have the desire, but we need the funds to eat better.
I
Food
would
is
say
expensive.
this, and maybe this is going to sound a little kooky to everyone that's looking and listening right now, but I believe that when you have the desire, I believe that God makes room for you. He makes room. It's like you're ready to walk on the path, and it's things just start opening up for you. I mean, I could give you anecdotal evidence in my own life. You know what I mean? Antoine, I'm sure you have anecdotal evidence in your own life. It's just like, you know what, when I made up my mind to do this one thing, things just started happening for me. And I don't think that's a mistake. I just would like to see that times our entire community. That's what I want. And I think that's not going to happen. You won't see a desire manifested when you're listening to, I'm going to kill him up, shoot him up, you know, F him. You know what I mean? All that other stuff. Like it's not helping nobody. Like
But
you're not. What are you
what
feeding
kills
yourself,
that?
bro?
I
Like
mean, I guess my thing is like, you know, all the stereotypes of the kind of like the black community, like, oh yeah, they listen to the crazy rap songs, or they buy the Jordan shoes and all this type of stuff. But I mean, what do we know? What do we understand from the standpoint of like, how do we make the black community better?
we had to change our
That's
diet.
the
It's honestly, I know it sounds too simplistic, but it's the truth. You change your diet, you change your mind, you change your mind, you change your life.
But how do you change your diet, like she said, if you don't have the money to even afford it? If
Well,
you can't
I
afford to
know.
change your diet, and I know because I eat
Yeah, you're talking about
well,
food deserts. We can talk about food deserts for sure. Like I know
we'll
about
get
that.
way
You know.
out there on that. But my point is though, that's what I'm saying. We always have everybody has the solution, but you just said from your standpoint, like no money, we don't need why keep pouring money in it. So do you see the issues that the black community deal with on a daily basis? Like,
But
do you see the problem?
I believe that. See, we're talking about what's going to happen first. What we're having right now is a conversation about the chicken or the egg. What needs to happen first in order for us to actualize the reality that we want? That's the conversation that we're having on a meta level. That's what we're talking about. And what I'm saying is that the money will come after you get your mind right. Like we're so worried about having the funding, but you don't have the infrastructure within your own self to handle that blessing. You don't have the infrastructure to handle the money. You're not in a place to handle it. So why don't you get
So how do we where do we
at
get
least
there?
cultivate the desire?
Hey, Kel, we need you to join, man.
Yeah, come
Tell me
on,
the
somebody
part you
hop in.
agree with, Kel. That's my guy. Tell me the part you agree with, Kel. A lot of kids think that it's norm in the hood because as soon as someone make it out, they go to the white neighborhood and feed their brain. And that's the problem, man. So you don't have people like, I made a conscious effort to really like come back to the hood and live in the hood, although like it's pretty legit where I live, but it's like I made a conscious effort. And but a lot of people go away and then they have these perceptions or these talks, and that's what I try to tell people. People don't understand, and it's certain things like I'm not saying that I don't disagree with. Like if I was to get into certain issues as he has some crazy views as well because I'm not against certain things happening. Like, I believe that in communities we must be safe. In our communities, we have to have peace. So if you were here, like I always say this to some of my kids, like I get you might come from a broken home, you might have a lot of trauma going on, but we cannot allow you to take over the school and shut down the school because of all the issues and problems that you're having at your crib. You understand? That's why we need to find and get you the right help so that you can get to that point. But around the same time is that people are not even willing. They think that the black community is getting too much money or they're doing too much for the black community, and that's the issue we're having with the community.
I think people see, because I mean, it's hard for me to say that we haven't gotten anything. Like there are programs out there designed straight up for black folks. I mean, we have opportunities nowadays. Like it's not like we're totally destitute. We're not living in 1922, whatever. Like it's not crazy like how it was. Like I wouldn't want to live one day in my great grandfather's shoes. Not one day. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole nother thing. Like can't whistle at nobody. Like none of that. Like like it's over. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about microaggressions and stuff like that. Like I'm like, nah. Like that's real light compared to like, boy, come on, I got some rope for you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole nother level. So I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, and it's essentially what I'm saying this whole night. I really think like if we reimagine, like think about the reality, bro. Like think about the period between 1865 and 1965, that Reconstruction period. Like we had more Black inventors. Mm-hmm. We created the first authentic American jazz art form in jazz music. Like we had senators. Like we were doing it, and this is all under Jim Crow and getting lynched. And what happened? Like, and we were doing it.
But what happened? Do you know what happened?
They burnt it down.
Do you know what happened?
I know they burnt it down.
They burned it down.
They burnt it down.
So that's my point. Like, yeah, who burned it down?
White folks.
Okay. Folks. I just want to make sure.
Hate racism.
Okay. I'm making sure you got it.
No. I'm not crazy.
And so, but yeah. So my
point
is though,
the people back then had a different vision of themselves.
But that impacts us to this day. Like that type of behavior impacts us to this day. Because right then and there, imagine if those people would remain in power. We would have more Black senators throughout. You know, like I was just looking at something the other day. It was like we have 9 Black male or Black female senators throughout, you know, since it's been going on. So I'm telling you, all that stuff matters. All that stuff is a big piece about what we're doing. That's why I try to explain to people, like, it's not as simple, man. We're going through so many different issues and so many different problems that has never been addressed. So that's why people say, hey, reparations. That's why people say, hey, equity. You gotta look at that equity word. That's a huge word now, especially as it relates to schooling, because it's like
equity's nasty.
It needs more support. Our kids need more support. Our kids need more funding. Our kids need more resources to be able to make it out of the extreme circumstances that they find themselves in.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you dropped the word equity. So I believe in equality. It's the everyone gets an opportunity to do X or Y. Everyone has an opportunity, but with equity, it's across the board, no matter what. It's not merit based, and that it could be troublesome. There's some snakes in that ideology.
Well, so tell me, how was, you know, we got to wrap up, but how was it? How did equality work for the separate but equal? That you remember that ruling? Like, oh no, schools.
Bro, you have to dig all the way back to the 19th and 20th century for all these arguments.
I'm saying,
what about 2022? What about 2022?
So that's back to my point. So all of these issues stem from, if we go back, if we ask like, hey, did your father know his father? Did his father know his father? Did his grandfather know? And
somebody got to break the cycle.
It'll take us back to slavery. It'll take us back to when they separated us in our homes. It'll take us back to when we wanted to be with our families and they said no. So my point is though, so when you get to that same point, of course, no, it's not equality, because like you have to show you this picture. But if I'm going through more issues, if I just see my father brains blown out and all this type of stuff, and you're having a normal life over here, you think that we should get the same amount of resources and see where we need? Of course not.
I think that you can't live in abundance and in your past at the same time. You can't do it. And that's what the problem with us is. We are a double-minded people. We want to relive our pain and trauma and then live in our abundance and walk into the future at the same time. Pick one. We must pick one. It's just that simple, bro. Like I hear what you're saying, fam, but you got to choose at a certain point. And I know for me and my household, We moving forward. I'm breaking, bro. I got so much stuff in my family history, bro. My grandpa was a Rolling Stone. His brothers were Rolling Stones. Like it, all sorts of crazy stuff, man. I could talk to you all night about it.
Yeah.
But I told you one thing. I said I'm getting married. I'm gonna have some kids. I'm gonna stay with my wife. No matter what, we're gonna make it work. My kids are gonna see us making it work. We're gonna argue well. We're creating good habits in our home. And you know what? I want my kids to do the same thing. I pray to God that my kids further on the things that I'm trying to distill into them. Because we got to break the cycles. It's excuses after a certain point. Like I said before, you can't live in abundance and in your past at the same time. You got to choose one. So
So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna so there's a lot of comments coming in. I don't want to, and it's just getting on fire. Mr. Middleton says, "Sheesh." I don't know if he agrees with you or he's like, "Wow." I don't know what that is, but a lot of our people. Let's see what the brother says. A lot of our people is coming in fast. Got to break the cycle and be willing to receive the help we want or seek.
come on, Jones.
How do we
I hear
how do
you.
we move away? How do we move away from trauma without getting help?
We
You know,
can't. Need help.
if blacks get reparations, there's so many blacks that are gonna fall off too because they are not leading. And so I think that so well let me just say this because a lot of people are like, hey, you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You got to go strong. And I can agree with that as I can agree totally with that. But my question to what I try to explain to people, this is my question for you all. To everybody that agrees with Mr. Seller's point. How do you address the individuals right now that have all the trauma in the world? How do you address that? How do you deal with that? How do you because it's so easy to say like, hey man, just get through it. Hey man, just make it, man. Just make it work. I made it work. And everybody not built like that. Everybody not built with making it work. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I I I think like I said, it anything worth having starts very small. Anything worth having starts very small. Start your startup business. You know, like how you inspire those boys, man. I see what you're doing, bro. It's good work. And maybe you're not at like some sort of big university talking to 1,500 black people in an auditorium, but you're working with however many people that you are, and you're making an impact. Like we see it on Facebook. I see it on Facebook. Anything worth having. Having a family, that's a microcosm of your community. And I just think the more people that want it, it starts to shift the culture. Cultivate the desire. If you are doing something, anybody that's listening to what I'm saying or watching this right now, as an individual, if there's something in your life right now that you are currently doing that you know that you should be doing better, start thinking about and seeing yourself doing that thing to cultivate a desire for you to do better. And I promise you, stuff is going to start opening up for you. I promise you, because that's just how it
so,
works.
so somebody wanted to ask you, somebody asked, what's his background? So you asked me my background. Tell us your background. Where does your thinking, your thought process come from? So I went to
Um,
Oakland with Jason. So pretty cool. And I know you can sing. That's
yeah,
very
yeah. Let me see. I'm the middle of three boys. Um, my father and my father. I come from a two-parent home. My parents are still together. I was raised
amen.
Adventist. Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful thing. I had a good example. My father's a good man. My mother's a good woman. I watched my parents argue growing up. I watched them argue good. I watched them argue bad. I guess I grew up middle class, I guess you could say. I haven't known struggle like that. Like poverty. I don't know anything about that. I was blessed, to grow up in the home that I did. Um, I'm a musician. That's what I do. I'm a musician and I'm a vascular tech. That's what I do for work. I read a lot. And I read a lot. Like Marcus Garvey to, Sun Tzu, Confucius, like everything. You know what I mean? I read. Um, I am very big on um, the idea of the kingdom of heaven is within you. Like that means a lot to me. I take that verse seriously, and I really believe that we can cultivate um, at least a heaven within yourself. You can create a heaven within your home. I believe that we can create a heaven within our community, and so, but I believe in a heavy responsibility on the individual, which is basically everything that I've been saying tonight. But I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't have like some sort of crazy MBA or anything like that. I got a bachelor's degree. Like I'm just like a regular guy. I'm just a family guy. I'm working.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
so when what I think is that like, which is like it's a blessing that your family was able to um your family was able to make it work. You had a strong family background, which is very important, I think, as well. And I guess like the issue that I see is like, well, everybody, can we see people that has not been like where you were? Like, can we see that? Like, and understand like they're gonna have a different experience. It's gonna be much harder for them. Like for
I
you, like I see how you are. I saw you are represent yourself at Oakwood. I could tell like you came from a wonderful background, but there are people that go through trauma on a daily basis, that has to come out there and try to go to college, that has to try to keep their grades up.
Bro, I didn't tell you the trauma that I've been through. I mean, we could talk about that too. I've been through some crazy trauma, bro. Like I didn't tell you how, I grew up. You know what I mean? You don't know what it was like in my
Yeah,
household. You know what I mean? You don't know where my father came from. You don't know where my
yeah,
mother came from. Like there's some snakes, there's some demons in my past, bro.
for
Like,
sure.
there's some
And
horrible
all
things.
and all of us,
And
and I
and I
think that everybody has a
every,
story.
everybody's got a
Everybody,
story. Let me
yeah.
finish this point
Go
because
ahead.
I think I saw somebody's comments like, well, if you didn't come from that kind of thing, then you don't really have anything to say about it. It's like, no, uh, I think that's a weak argument because the same money doesn't take away the snakes in your closet. It just makes them pretty. You know, I mean, we can see this. I mean, we've seen people who, I mean, look at R. Kelly, for goodness sakes. Look at him. Dude had everything. Had everything. He had the money, top platinum albums, but he had some demons in his closet, and they came out and they came to get him. Period. Like, and it's the same thing. Look at Harvey Weinstein, and I'm sure he was born in some probably with a silver spoon in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? And he had some demon in his closet, did some dirt, and they came and got him. So I I don't want to hear about like, well, you can't speak on this because you didn't come from. It's like, no, the human experience is such that everyone has struggles, everyone has things to deal with, and the only thing that I'm saying right now is that if the things that you should be working on, work on those things. Cultivate good habits, cultivate a good character, and you will get those outcomes. It's just that simple. It don't have anything to do with conditions. Anybody talking about conditions as a way as to how they are is weak. Conditions have nothing to do about states. And I'm talking about states of your mind. Like con- states affect conditions, not the other way around. Conditions don't affect states. If you have a right mind, you could take everything away from a person and they'll build it back up again because it's about the state of their mind. It's not the condition that sets who they are. It's not the same.
It's not the same, he says. And then here's Leon. He says, you may not experience what the kids who grows up without father deals with, but all people struggle. But that's why I say we should all get people who've experienced things like single parent homes or whatever the trauma is around who we went. Yeah, somebody say repeat that, please. I don't know. But hey, I think this is a great conversation because as we can see, this goes back to why we're now on one accord in the Black community, because everybody in the Black community don't even agree on a way forward, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important piece right now. Like I tell people all the time, and as we close out, like what's our most important goal in life? And I think it should be. One thing that Oakwood taught me was give back. That teacher to learn, the part
Respect.
to serve, that being put in our heads, drilling in our heads throughout our entire time at Oakwood. I thought that was very important. And so I believe that's what we kind of have to do as it relates to our community. It's like, hey, give back and make sure that we are trying to change. Because and I'm telling you, man, it's funny because I had your mindset. I had that same mindset. Like, hey, man, they better figure it out. I figured it out. You got to figure it out. And I think that he says we have to stop saying it was. Reggie says we have to stop saying it was easy for me, so anyone can do it.
It's not about easy. It's not about easy. You wouldn't want it if it was easy. You want it if it's easy. That's why no one wants anything worth having is not easy. That's why it's worth having. That's why it's worth holding on to. And that's why it's so hard to obtain. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
That's why we all want the best. That's why we want Gucci. That's why you want Gucci. Because you can't have it. Because it's too expensive. You got to do something to get that.
We got to bring you back. So if you vote,
have me back anytime.
Would you vote for Trump or would you vote for Biden? You had the chance.
I've made a really good habit of not choosing the lesser of two evils. I've done a really good job of that. So
what would you do?
No. The answer is no.
Hey,
I'm one of those non-voting Negroes.
Gun to your head, who you're voting for?
You're gonna have to pull that trigger, Bubba. You're gonna have to pull that trigger. Because I really I don't like it.
Where do you see, where's your mindset towards? Like, is it towards Republican? Is it towards Democrat?
I think it's a Hegelian dialectic, and I don't like it. Like, I see some things that Democrats do, some things that they said that I'm like, you know what, I can ride with that. That's cool. Same thing with Republicans. Like, some things that they say, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But each side goes way too far. Like
really?
they get crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I can't co-sign it, bro.
You know what?
You know what I
mean? That's the topic for that's a topic. Each side goes way too far, because I would argue with you that Democrats don't go far enough. Okay,
really,
especially looking at some foolishness that these Republicans.
Oh, we gotta have that conversation, bro.
Yeah, we will because definitely have that conversation. Law that
you brought up, that was your boy. That was your boy William. That was your boy Bill. That was him and Hillary. They did that 3 strikes. The whole 90s,
yeah, and I have
prison to prison pipeline. That was the Democrats.
The craziest thing is that, I can't even get into this.
I know.
Like,
we'll be on
the craziest thing is that I'm not against the 3-strike law. At some point, I'm not I mean, how can I put it? Because it's gonna.
Yo, you got some red blood in you, bro. You got some red in you. You're not against the 3 strikes law.
That's not red blood, brother. You just said that William Clinton, and guess who else supported that 3 strikes law? A lot of the black community back at that time. You understand? A lot of the black community supported that. Yes, that's why Bill Clinton did it. It just wasn't. He said off the top of my head, "Let me go put in three strikes." There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of crime. But again, I think as our time and things have evolved, it's about how do we put more resources out there to help our communities and to help them change. That's as time has evolved, people have grown to that. But I definitely was not. If you would have talked to me like a year and a half ago, I was not against the 3-strike law. I still can make a good argument for it. But I believe in moving forward, you want to see that money go towards putting resources out there to try to save these kids before they make those 3-strike laws.
That's great.
And
I agree.
Yeah. So that was, and everybody's getting on that. So clearly, we have to have a conversation about the 3-strike law coming up and who goes too far, Democrats or Republicans. So, Marcus, I would love to have you on that one. He says the 3 strikes law is insane. And I would love to have that conversation because
Yeah.
I'm not totally against, I wasn't totally against the 3-strike law when it first happened. We'll have that conversation, Marcus. And anybody
Yeah, I
else,
would love to.
yeah. And so, but we need to bring you back because I would love to see how far this is. You're talking about that the Democrats go. You know, the Republicans are insane
Oh yeah.
right now. You know, so
Yeah. When does the left go too far? When does the left go too far?
When does any party go too far? I guess that's the argument.
Well, we've seen the right go too far, right? We know what it looks like when the
idiots.
right goes too far.
Complete
It turns into fascism. You know what I mean? This nationalism. But when the left goes too far, I think it looks like clearly it's you get speech censorship, like you get identity politics. Like we can talk about that. We spent a lot of time on here, but like we can talk about that, bro. Like
Brother, we got
you know,
we got Trump 2.0 around here, huh?
You're killing me, man.
Hey, I appreciate you joining. I appreciate all y'all joining.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Good Night Show. We will definitely have this started with Brittney Grinder, right? This all started with Brittney Grinder. Everybody was all upset that she had got released. Bless their hearts. So we kind of broke that down. And then it moved on to a topic about what do Black people go through and why Black people should get more resources as relates to equity and all that type of stuff. So soon we need to have a conversation about going back. And, you know, I hate to go backwards, but the 3-strike law, the who goes too far, Republicans or Democrats, and how do we, you know, address all these issues. So Jason will be back. I can see a lot of people enjoy Jason. He was a very popular guy in Oakwood, so I can see how they enjoyed him, talking to him. He has a great mindset. And I love that. Honestly, I love talking to people with different mindsets, with different opinions, because it just helps you out even more. I don't believe in shutting anybody out for any of that type of stuff. So join us again. Love you all. The Good Night Show. Share the video. Go subscribe on YouTube